It's Sabbath where we are, and it's a beautiful spring morning here. And this is presentation number 3. Let's open with a word of prayer. Dear Lord, we thank you for so many blessings that you give to us. The privilege of being able to dictate our own destiny. You call it liberty. We call it freedom. And for the relationships that we can have. Friends and family who touch our hearts and give meaning to our existence. As we study your word and try to understand end-time prophecy, help us not to forget these 2 principles that make life valuable. In Jesus' name, amen. So we've covered quite a lot of material. Had a few technical problems. So I'm not using the same device today as I used yesterday. So as we do a review of yesterday, unfortunately online, I can't share it with you. So I haven't had time to import it into my new device. And just give us a quick moment. I'll try to speak. Yes. We're back. So as we review yesterday's study, it won't show on the digital board online, unfortunately. So we spoke about some rules of methodology. We spoke about some issues of past studies. And we spoke about how we're supposed to approach inspiration. We gave an example of Revelation 12, the red dragon, who that entity represented. And we came to a conclusion. I just used the word everything. The red dragon represents everything. And everything meaning the statue of Daniel 2. In presentation number 1, we said Satan's kingdom, or the kingdoms of the world. So what we need to be increasingly comfortable with is the idea in our context, Revelation 12, 13, and 17 are all the same story, but they're given from a different perspective and sometimes a different time frame. That's why in Revelation 12, the dragon is whom? According to Ellen White, pagan Rome. And in Revelation 13, that same animal, we tend to call it the sea beast or the first beast. It's not pagan Rome. It's whom? We'll go with an approximation of papal Rome. So as we develop our studies, as we use the term Sunday law still today, and we know there's no Sunday and there's no law connected to it, we have to be clear that when we do waymarks and we talk about the papacy or the Pope, we have to be careful that often they're close approximations to what that waymark actually is. The same refers to the symbol. The same would refer to the symbol. So the beast or the beast of Revelation 13 isn't the papacy, isn't the Pope. It's a little bit more subtle or more complicated than that. So we need to make sure each of us are clear on that when we use those terms. So I received a question. Maybe someone can answer the question. How do we know, or how do we prove that the dragon of 12 is the beast of 13? Who wants to have a go at answering that? Curtis. So I stated as I guess as a fact that they're the same thing. And someone's asked, can you just explain how you demonstrate that or how you show that? Go ahead.
If we believe that Daniel and John are talking about the same thing, when we talk about the statue in Daniel 2, and we talk about the iron, we limit it to 4 kingdoms in that story. Because the point that we want to make about the feet of miry clay and iron is that that iron is in the feet and toes as well. It's the same thing. And so we know that that iron is pagan Rome. And so we see that at the feet and toes. So I guess it takes a lot of things that you have to have known about that iron being the dragon. So if the iron goes through to the feet and toes, then the dragon would too, the symbol that you're going to use for that entity.
You just said we finished?
Yeah, finished. And so that's, I guess, my proof that in 12, it's pagan Rome. And just like Daniel 2, it carries on the story.
And that proves to you that the Beast of 13 is the same
as 12.
Yeah. Does anybody have a comment to add to that? Or a further question? Blessing?
I just wanted to add something from Revelation 13 too.
Is that verse 2 or as well?
Verse 2. So verse 2 speaks of a transfer of power from one to the other. Verse 2 speaks of a transfer of power from the dragon to the beast of Revelation 13. And the way I understand that is like an inheritance. Yeah, where one king is taking over from the other. So they assume all the properties and responsibilities of the previous king. So that beast effectively becomes the dragon, the same thing.
Okay, so hopefully people understood that. Extra information. So last part of the verse, the dragon gave him his power, seat, and great authority. And of course, we just speak about the sea beast. But the first part of verse 2 tells you what it looks like. It has all the characteristics of the animals of Daniel. Esther?
Say it also has the characteristics of the statue. From Babylon. Persia, that the law is unfailable. From Greece, the knowledge and philosophy. Rome's character is state and church.
I'm fine with that. Any other points? Okay, so I'm hoping whoever's question that was, it got answered satisfactorily for them. So we spoke about the dragon. Then we spoke about the graphic that's on the board here. It speaks about the relationship of the 5th, 6th, and 7th kingdom as they relate to the time of the end. It gets a bit blurry now because we had an hour and a half class yesterday. Then immediately afterwards, we had a 2-hour discussion. And so I can't remember exactly which bits were on camera and which were off camera. For those who are here in person, it doesn't really matter, but if you're online, it matters a lot. So when we spoke about this graphic, the reason we were doing this, someone help me out. Why were we doing this? Why did we look at this yesterday? Charity? Because we've looked at it in the past for a different reason. But we looked at it yesterday for a specific reason. Go ahead.
We wanted to see the problems in 1989. Yes, basically.
Okay. So we wanted to look at problems or issues. And there were two issues that we wanted to discuss, or two problems. These aren't just two problems connected with this graphic. It's two issues that you can become confused about or make mistakes about if you're not careful. And what were the two issues? So we want a nice, just short answer of what issue number one was. Tamina? Okay, we'll go with the second one.
Who's the king of the north in 1989?
We'll just do who is the king of the north? So it's a broad question because it's not just 1989. And issue one. Okay, so Emmanuel said Hitler's Pope. So that's what we wrote. But that's not the issue. So when we talk about a subject, we talk about it, you know, in broad terms, and then we come to some kind of conclusion. And I'm not trying to say I'm a good teacher, but if you're a good teacher, you give a key thought that people can hook onto, a memory hook. And the term or the phrase Hitler's Pope was the hook. So Emmanuel remembered the hook. And I suspect several of you did. And I suspect several of you did. But that's not the issue or the problem. It was meant to be a reminder or a hook that you could Remember what that was. So as you give your answer now, if it's more than about 4 words, you've made a mistake. Esther.
Of the papacy.
Okay, she actually got the right answer.
Resurrection
haven't done
of
it
the
yet.
papacy.
Okay. Yeah. So the answer is resurrection. Is that right? Okay. The rest of it is additional information on noise. Because when we look at it the second time today as a review, we want to be sure that we actually understand really clearly what the issue is. So we can go away after now. It goes from short-term memory to long-term memory, and you really know what it is. Nothing to do with the Third Reich. It's about resurrection. And it's nothing to do with 1989. It's about the King of the North. So if we're clear on that, and it demands really short answer. So we've got one word for number one, and the other one, because it's a question, takes a few words to do that one. Once you do that, then number one, we can add some information or some detail. So if it's resurrection, that's the question or the issue. What else is the issue? Number one. Blessing? Death. So I did that, I know, because I knew it was going to give a one-word answer. Death. Hope we can see that. If you know resurrection is the issue, then you know death is an issue. We tend not to use the word or the concept of birth, because we see all of these things as repeating patterns. So we could use birth if we wanted to, but instead of using that, we use the term resurrection. Someone tell me what the difference between resurrection is and birth. Because they're the same thing. There's a subtle difference. Natalie, Charity.
With resurrection, it has a connotation that it lived before.
Esther.
Birth is a point, and resurrection takes longer. It's a period. Development.
When Jesus was born, how long did that take?
Actually,
Literally. Couple of hours. When Jesus resurrected, how long did that take? Say it succinctly so they can translate.
I think it was a few seconds and moments where he unwrapped himself and did all of that.
A minute ago, you said birth is longer. Sorry, resurrection is longer than birth. Now you said the opposite. So you're saying, oh, in Jesus's case, that's the only case you have. Unless you're going to go to other people. But the widow's child. He gets resurrected straight away. Okay, so I've made my point. Curtis. Question is, what's the difference between resurrection and birth?
Birth is that it didn't exist before and it's something new coming into existence.
Birth is something new which didn't.
Birth is something new that didn't exist before. It's coming into existence. Whereas resurrection is the coming up of what went down before. In principle. In principle.
Jonathan?
Oh,
Sorry? No.
birth is new, resurrection is old.
When you say old, okay. So if it's just saying the same thing in a slightly different way, I'll skip people unless they've got a new thought to add. Gabriella and then Andreas.
To ask you, you had said that they are the same thing, birth and resurrection, when you asked the question.
I should have put the word essentially. I said, in essence, I didn't use that word, they're the same thing. So someone explain what the difference is. Because both of them are new life. And so my question was, what's the difference then between them? Andres and then Blessing.
I don't know if it's what you're looking for, but in at least some cases of resurrection, there's a new body that it's different. So it's the same person, but it's a different body.
Did anybody else say that before you?
I don't know.
Okay. They think that they said the same,
Oh, okay.
but I'm just checking because it sounds a little bit different or more succinct. It sounded more succinct when you said it. Okay. Blessing,
So I was going to say something similar.
say it.
It's more glorious when it's resurrected. It's more glorious when it's resurrected.
Anyone else? Oh, sorry, I can't see. I didn't see your hands at the back. Sorry. Either one. I was Monica, not Peter.
Nový začátek a přišlení je pokračování příběhu.
So,
It's a new beginning, and the resurrection is the continuation of a story.
this will be the last one now.
Is something completely new? Resurrection is based upon that it needs a death beforehand. Otherwise, there cannot be a resurrection.
Okay. Just looking for something. So I just want to go to a spirit prophecy phrase that doesn't talk specifically about this. It's in several places, but I'll go for the great controversy quote. I'll just give it to you. It's GC 268.3. That's only for future reference. Don't look it up or anything now. Great controversy 268, paragraph 3. That's a reference in English. In other languages, pagination is different, of course. All I want to pick up is a phrase. A new manifestation. Manifestation can mean several things, but when it says manifestation in this context, what's that a synonym or a code for? The word manifest or manifestation. Resurrection, looks, demonstration. All those answers were correct. I'm just going to use the word old. Of what the old thing was. And so it says there's a new version of the old. Or it's the same thing, but a new version of it. So the reason why we like resurrection is because it teaches us several things. It's the same entity. It looks a little bit different. And I like the point that was made that it's more glorious now. So it's whatever glorious means in a context. Bigger, stronger, faster, whatever it is. So it's the same thing, but now it's better. And it looks a bit different. Okay. So resurrection and death. Who is the king of the north? So I've already warned you. When we start speaking about symbols or events, we tend to be lazy and we use terms or images or titles that are sometimes not correct. I'm not saying not to do it, but if you do it or you hear someone else doing it, you have to take the extra step to filter through and make sure you know what the real thing is. Good? Sorry. Sorry? We tend to put the Pope everywhere. So yesterday, in 1798, I'm sorry I don't have the graphic for that, we had a death here, and then we just said alive. But we would put resurrection. And then we'd ask what died and what resurrected. And when we do that, we often say the papacy. Papacy died in 1798. And I think we discussed this on camera, that in reality, it wasn't the papacy that died. Maybe we should, I put in parenthesis, church. So forget papacy, the death of the church. And instead of that, more of the reality is that the church doesn't die. It's the state power that dies. So that's just an example. As soon as you do that, you get a problem, which is what we discussed in the 2 hours off camera. In number 1, it says death and resurrection. And we've got death and resurrection here on this graphic. So what are we referring to when we talk about the death and resurrection? Forget what I've put here. Don't look at that. So I can't hide it on the screen. Ignore the graphic. Just go for 1 and 2. Number 2 is clear. King of the North. What's number 1 about? The noun, the subject. Death and resurrection, it's of the same entity. We know that. But when we talk about death and resurrection, what are we talking about when we use those terms? Because yesterday we went to Revelation 17. We went to verse 8. We went to Revelation 17:8. Okay, before we do that, you give me your answers. So this arrow indicates that the subject we're referring to is number 1. Death and resurrection of whom? Who's dying and resurrecting? Who said that? King of the North. So we've got King of the North. Jonathan gave us that. Tamina, you had your hand up. Who were you going to say? You don't. Uh, yeah. Who? Yeah. Who can't? Who can't hear? They can't hear you. So you got to repeat what you just said.
You already gave the answer I wanted to give.
What answer did I give?
Asked in the resurrection and death what it is about, and my answer would be
Why are you speaking? They won't hear you.
it's about the whom, like who dies. That's the important thing.
Okay. Debbie.
Just going to say transfer of power.
The transfer of power of whom or to him?
From one king of the north to the other king of the north.
King of the North. So you agree with Jonathan? Anyone else? Beast. Yeah. Anyone else? I got had you.
The Holy Alliance.
Go ahead. I don't mind. But we weren't allowed to do that. Okay, so we've got 3 different answers. Revelation 17, verse 8. The beast. This is I think is it scarlet colored beast? Is that how we define it? The scarlet colored beast died and resurrects. Are we okay with that loose paraphrase? Give you a couple of minutes. Verse 8, the scarlet colored beast died and resurrects. Just want to make sure that's accurate to what it says. Sorry? What did I have? I said 17, verse 8.
Oh, okay.
Everybody good? Okay, so according to 17:8, it's the beast. So Charity is correct. We all agree? Yep. Okay. Then we had 13:3. Someone gave me 13:3. And 13:3, Revelation. Let me put these down. We did Revelation 17:8 and we did Revelation 13:3. I'll paraphrase again. I saw the multi-animal beast that came out of the sea. When I looked at it, one of its heads were killed, and that head resurrected. And when it resurrected, forget the rest of it. So the beast that comes out of the sea had one of its heads killed, and then that head resurrected. So is that paraphrase okay? Is that okay? Yep. We're okay with that paraphrase. So in that story, it's the beast. If we're okay with that. So I think I know your hand's up. So the question we want to ask, yes, there it is on the top right-hand corner of the board here. We said that the beast of Revelation 13, what did we say about that beast? Not details about it in relation to something else. What did we say? Before you answer that, Curtis, will you be able to hold on to your question? Yeah, you won't forget? Okay. Just want to make this. What did we say about that? In relation to something. I just want to put something on the board, simple to explain when you give me the answer.
Different perspective of the same story?
I said that, but I want a simpler answer. No. Debbie?
Correct.
No. 13 as I'm waiting for you to speak. No, behind you, sorry. Yeah, speak. Esther. Same. So forget 12. We already did 12. So I'm not worried about 12. So I'm going to put equals here. Yesterday we said 13 equals 17. So the question is that correct? Just a yes or no will do. Yes? No? No no's? Okay, so the fact that we're looking at this, you know it's not just a yes. Because there's a hidden problem in this. So Debbie said repeat and enlarge. Repeat and enlarge? You said repeat and enlarge. So, or someone else said, I think, the same story, or repeating story. 13 and 17, they are the same animal. But one of them gives clarity, further information. And that's where the problem arises. We're going to switch from here onto the digital board. So I'll put an arrow down to here. This is 13. So I'm not going to put equals now. I'm going to put, I think that's kind of equivalent. Maybe not technically correct. Is that right? Well, let's do that then. Approximation is better. Yep. So 13 is approximately the same as 17. So in 17, we have a beast and a woman. And in 13, we just have a beast. Everybody knows that. On line 1, this one, we've got approximation. So the approximation is the beast of 13. What do I write here? What do I write here? Shout out, because it's going to be a one-word answer. Beast. Is that what you said? Beast. The beast of 13 is approximately the same as the beast of 17. If we're okay with that. Now, we're doing the same thing here. We're going down. And now we've got the words. But we don't have the symbol. Now you tell me what the symbol is. It's kind of like being at school, being in the gaps. We had one equal. Did we have two equals? Just one equal? Just one person? I thought I heard someone else. Yeah, who was that? Yeah. Was it you? It was you. I thought it was a... So, equals. Yeah, I don't know how to get rid of the yellow line. Okay. Equals. Are we okay with equals? Now they're equal. I'm going to say they're equal now. Unless someone's got any concerns or questions. Tamina?
What's the difference between the first arrow and the second?
So the first arrow is saying, let's look at that story. And the second arrow says, let's look at it in a bit more detail. Does that answer your question? Was that your question? Okay. Natalie, you had your hand up or not? Yeah, no, I saw his hand up. I thought I saw Curtis.
Going back to what I had put
Wherever
my
you
hand
go.
up. I was just going to ask that if in 17 it separates the beast and the woman, does John just conflate the two in 13?
Before you move on, can you ask your question again, but don't use the word conflate?
in 17, it talks about the beast and the woman separately. But in 13, does John just make them one entity? When he talks about the beast. Yeah.
Some people might not know what
Okay.
conflate
Yeah.
means. My answer to that question is yes. And that's why it's equal. That imagery of the beast of 13 and the dragon of 12 doesn't show you the two elements. And it's the same problem that you see where. So I'll say this, I'll do it like this. I use the word problem. Like in quotation marks. As what? Someone else. Debbie? Yeah.
Daniel? Is it?
Daniel.
That's Daniel. But I
Okay.
don't know what chapter.
So
it's in.
Daniel, I heard something here. Daniel 2. So Daniel 2. So if it's Daniel 2, Debbie, what are you seeing in Daniel 2 that's the same problem or issue?
I guess well, you said something about a 4 and then something about a 7. I don't know if that's the same thing that we're talking about.
Not 4 and 7.
No,
No? Over here? When they tell you, you'll know. You'll say, oh, yes. Was it, I don't know who I thought you're looking at me, so she's put the mic to you.
I just said Daniel too, but I'm thinking.
That's fine. Anyone else? Monica?
Only shows the state power.
Daniel 2 only shows state power. Is that a statement or a question? And the answer to that would be no. Because it's the same problem. So it has to have the same dynamic. In Revelation 13, what are you seeing there? Only or both? How would you begin your sentence? Only.
Repeat again. I see only one
No,
entity.
only. So in Revelation 13, you only see states.
Mhm.
That were true. The second line would be wrong.
Ah,
So Revelation 13, it's not only, it's
both.
both. And if it's the same problem, it's not state only in Daniel 2. So someone, it's Curtis, so if I repeat the question, I'll give you the answer. Because I'll guide you to the thing. Blessing?
I needed what Charity said. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Curtis?
That in
Give me the 13 version of 2. Revelation 13. Give me the version of that in 2, in Daniel 2.
the iron.
Iron. Okay. Give me the Daniel 2 version of Revelation 17.
iron and what?
Iron and clay.
Miry clay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Miry.
I'm going to put here underneath that gold.
Mhm.
The reason I'm going to do that
Okay.
is because that's the, is it called not what the original?
Mhm.
And we all know that Nebuchadnezzar is a what? Not a head of gold. Not a statue. Someone said, not just king.
Also, no, no.
No, not just king. He's a king priest. Yep. So the head of gold and the legs of iron have built within them a church-state relationship. And when you get to the feet, the church bit precipitates out, or separates, and now it's clay. The way we used to explain it, which I think is reasonable, whatever the metal is, because the church and the state are so aligned with one another, they can be viewed as the same thing. This is the state of Babylon or Rome, and it's the religion of Babylon or Rome. But when you get to this one, it's the state of Rome, and it's the religion of Christ. Yeah? Everybody okay with that? Religion of Christ? That's why it's clay. Don't get too distressed by it. No, the clay. It's clay. The religion is Christian. Is it not? The feet is 538. And now the state is going to, from its perspective, absorb, the state will absorb, from its perspective, Christian religion. It will forsake paganism and take on Christianity. Okay, I'll repeat that. In 500 AD, the religion of Rome is paganism. By the time you get to 538, the religion of Rome is changed to Christianity. To mark that change, the religious bit that used to be iron now becomes clay. Is that okay? Yep. So we did Daniel 2 to prove or demonstrate that the relationship of 13 and 17 is correct. I'm going to ask if everybody's okay in a minute. Before I do that, I want to remind us that everything below this line here is a means to an end. It's leading us somewhere. It's not the end itself. This is just something, this is just a perspective or some knowledge that we need to answer or address an issue. Now we've done this, we can't say, oh, we've arrived. We haven't arrived anywhere yet. Now we can begin our journey. Now, any issues or questions? Because we can't begin unless we understand what we've just done. Yes, anything we want to do. Improve that, restate it, ask questions. We'll go with questions first, if anybody has one, because people are looking worried. Actually, we'll do it the other way around, because the observation might answer your question. I'll go with Curtis first, then Esther. Esther, you got a question or observation? Okay, so we go with Curtis, Monica, then Esther. Okay. Well, Curtis first.
In the past, when commenting about the relationship between the religion and the state in Babylon, it's been framed as Nebuchadnezzar controls the church. But in reality, Nebuchadnezzar has a religion that's going to guide his behavior. Or a perspective of what his nation should be. And so it's just underlying that dynamic. And so it looks the same, but there's a specific ideology that's guiding those kings in those four.
Does that materially change anything?
No. No, I think I think it reinforces the point.
She didn't hear you.
No, I think it just reinforces the point.
So I'm going to scrap everything I said before. Not everything, literally. I'm going to rephrase it. Nebuchadnezzar is not a priest king. He's a king, state, but he's also the head of the church. And rather than going to the United Kingdom model, where you see that, I want to go or just take you to Egypt, which I think is much more similar to Babylon. Pharaoh has a priest class who he obeys. They're in control of the church. But he is the head of the church. And as well as being a king, he's God on earth. So there is some subtle differences to say he's a priest king. Keep your questions. Yeah, it's just Curtis.
Because I think it affects the conclusion that I think we're leading to.
Okay. Blessing.
I think I'll skip.
You sure?
Yeah.
You've forgotten? Oh, please share it with us if you haven't forgotten. It always helps. It always makes a difference.
I just wanted to point out that the model of Daniel 2 compared to Revelation 17,
Stop there.
there's similarities, but I think there's also differences. In the sense that you have this foreign religion, the clay melding with the iron. So two entities. And 17 also shows us two entities. But in 17, unlike in Daniel 2, I don't think we see the second entity being identified as a foreign element. As a foreign element, like something outside of. I think Daniel 8 is more representative of what we see in Revelation 17. So the religion is the same. It's all paganism, like from start to finish. That's what I wanted to say.
Esther?
8 and 17.
I have a simple question. Daniel 2 is the same problem as Revelation 13. Okay, I'm trying. In Daniel 2, in the feet, you have iron and clay. We said it's similar to Revelation 13.
We didn't say that.
But we also said Revelation 13 and 17 are the same.
When you made your statement, did that get translated? Repeat what you said. I didn't hear it got translated. I did.
Beforehand, you said Revelation 13 and 17 is the same.
It's not what you just said. You said iron and clay in Daniel 2 is the same as Revelation, I think you said 13. No, so it needs to get, what I just said needs to get translated. I'm too low. So Esther said that Daniel 2, iron and clay, is Revelation 13. And I said, no, it's actually Revelation 17. Okay. Monica.
I want to make sure if I understand correctly.
You have to speak loud because they can't hear you.
I want to make sure if I understand correctly. The problem in Daniel 2 and Revelation 13 is that there are both, but we only see state in the symbol. until we come to the feet.
No.
No. Okay. So I don't understand then.
The head of gold is church and state. As you go through silver, brass, and iron. They're not state. They're church and state. Revelation 13 is church and state. You don't see that until you get to 17, where the church precipitates, or visually you can see it comes out, it's separate. And in Daniel 2, you see that in the feet, which is seen as clay.
Symbol of the metal is church and state.
Yes,
Okay.
it has to be.
Okay.
Blessing didn't quite say it this way. But if we see the approximation and the equal to be correct, and that 13 and 17 are approximately the same, or the same, in 17, that woman was in existence in the history of Babylon, which is the first head. You agree with that? Therefore, in Daniel 2, the woman has to be there. She cannot not be there. So the gold cannot be state. Has to be church and state. And all you need to do is to develop a story or a narrative that justifies and explains why it's only iron. And the answer, my narrative was, when it's gold, it's the state of Babylon and the religion of Babylon. They're both gold. When you get to the feet, pagan Rome state with a Christian religion, which is very different. Okay. Okay. So maybe that might be a good time to stop. So let me summarize. We're trying to understand the resurrection and who the king of the north is. Question 2 is straightforward because it's just the king of the north. Question 1, we want to know the death and resurrection of who? And we've got 3 answers. The third answer was a cheat. I mean, Tamina did that. She was cheating, I think. Yep. And the reason it was a cheat because it wasn't done on screen. We did it afterwards. And she wasn't even there at the time. So we've got beast. I've ticked beast to be correct. Because it says that in Revelation 17:8. and Revelation 13:3. So we explained that. Not that. What we explained was we've got the word beast here, someone's answer. And then we've got two passages. And each of them say beast. And despite what we said yesterday, they're not the same thing. So we've done that underneath this line here. 13 is approximately the same as 17. And we're talking about the beasts. So when we've ticked beast here, we can't just use proof text in 17 and 13 to say that that's correct. So we spent about half the class looking at the difference between approximate and exact. Exactly the same and approximately the same. All of this, Daniel 2 bit of the study, you can ignore because it was to prove something. But as we were using Daniel 2 to prove 13 and 17, we had some extra thoughts that Blessing gave us. So all we've shown so far is that the word beast, when we speak about death and resurrection, it can indeed be found from 17 and 13. But 17 and 13 are different things. We'll say it this way, they're subtly different. So we have to be careful what's dying and what's resurrecting. When we tick beast. Let's close with prayer. Holy God, we thank you that the more questions we ask, the clearer our understanding of truth becomes. The way we see things changes. And when our view of the world changes, when our view of you changes, we can change. We are changed. In Jesus' name, amen.